Hello everyone, welcome to this session on the rise of the BISO role. My name is Manuel Chovrimoto. I'm currently a BISO at Cogeco Communications. Cogeco is a telecommunication company headquartered in Montreal, Canada. And the objective of this presentation is to share with you my story on this role that I took a year and a half ago, helping a cybersecurity practice to start from scratch in my company. And I want to share with you this experience. What is the role of a BISO? What is a BISO? And how we implemented that practice. Share with you the challenges, the success, things that work, didn't work. So if you find yourself in this role, you will have some information and also have your feedback as well on this. So let's start it. So here's our agenda. It's pretty packed for the time we have, but we'll do the best to get it on the time. So first of all, we introduced the role of BISO, what we did to get started, and what we did to implement cybersecurity as a service in the company I work for. And then we'll discuss about the focus on value. That is a very important indicators for the executive that are paying the bills at the end of the day, and give you some key takeaway. So first of all, let's define what is a BISO. BISO is an acronym that stands for Business Information Security Officer. So in my role, I'll work within the information security team, representing the interest of the business mainly. And that's a key part. So it's a very recent role in organizations. And why I wanted to give that presentation, actually, when I came to my first RSA conference last year in 2020, I just started on this role, and I was trying to meet other BISOs as well, to share challenges, to understand what was happening and get some information. Unfortunately, I could hardly find one. Of course, when I started, I made some search on Google, and at that time, it landed me only on a very few articles. If you make a similar search now, you will start to get a bit more hit than from what I could get in 2020. And in the quote I'm sharing here from CISOseries.com, summarize really very well one of the main functions that I do every day as a BISO is to be a business enabler. Basically, I don't say no to any team that needs to bring a software on the network, but always yes, but. And I think that's how it is mostly every day, and you will see more in the next slides. As I say, it's a very new role, and if you hit a search on Google, you can get a few articles. I want to share with you here some of the articles that you can find, and I highlighted in green the main element that comes in. As you see, things that come a lot are a bridge from the centralized security function to the business, understand the goals of the business unit and what it will need to protect, and being a link between business and technology. So to give you a bit of background, as I said earlier, I joined a team that just started out within my company. So 15 individuals started in September 2019, forming a new corporate cybersecurity team under the leadership of the CISO. I joined that team 4 months later in January 2020. And my mandate when I landed was basically those 4 points I'm sharing here. First was to get the team known with the organization, get the service catalog known. There was a pressing need to deliver cybersecurity services to the organization. I had to connect with the different business units, understand their needs, what they needed from security, what they understand, what they don't understand, and what we could do to help, and organize the deliveries and provide regular support to the business units. So that was basically the high-level points of my mandates, and based on that, I had to build out how we were going to do this. So to explain to you how it functions in the company I am, so this is our structure and operating model that we build. It can be very different in your organization or in your experience, and this is what I live through. If you look on the left-hand side, we have the corporate functions. So for instance, internal audit, procurement, legal, enterprise risk, project management, and some other IT teams that are at the corporate level. On the right-hand side are the IT teams with which we deal with. And I bring the role here so you can see the difference between the CISO and the BISO, which kind of the first question that can pop into your mind. Why a new role again in security space? The CISO interact more at the strategic level between the corporate functions and the CIO and the CTO at the IT leadership. And in my role as a BISO, I do a little bit of the similar, but at a more tactical and operational level. So I will deal also with the corporate functions, but with IT architecture and operations team within the business units. We have different business units, 3 mainly in different locations. To give a very concrete example, let's say, for instance, interaction with internal audit. So the CISO will sit on the audit committee and interact with the VP internal audit, understanding the high risk of the companies, the critical risk, and having all the high level information at this point, and build a strategy, of course, on how we can help to attack those risks literally, and build a strategy plan with the CTO. At my level, I will take in a notch more on the field at a tactical level. So I will interact with the director of audit and the auditors directly, understanding what kind of findings they have, what are the 2 critical ones, what are the important ones that they need to be solved, that need to be remediated. So then I can work with them and the IT architecture team within the business units to have them implemented and support to close them on the field. And that's why we have those 2 different layers, more at the tactical and operational level compared to the CISO. So the first thing we had to do were to meet the key partners. So I defined the key departments as I just showed in the previous slide. So I had to meet, for instance, with director of procurement, the senior buyers, project management office individuals. So to get ourselves known in the organization where they didn't really know us, I had to plan a tour of duty, or cyber roadshow, as we call it internally. I had to get to know each department, understanding the structure, how many people are in this department, what is their workload, what are their previous experience with cybersecurity, if any, what did work well or not well, and understand their process, very important as well. So I planned my meetings around, but I had to build my deck. I had to go with tools. So I prepared a cybersecurity deck to present our practice, who we are, how many people we are, what we can do, what our service offers, and also understanding what they need to see if what we offer are meeting the needs, or do we have to fine tune. So that was one of the first steps. So that helped us to get started, and I had to literally take the show on the road now. So having booked my meetings, having my cyber deck in hand, I could go meet the business units. So in this role as the face of the new cybersecurity practice, I introduced myself to the tactical and operational teams by organizing face-to-face meetings when this was still possible in early 2020. Since then, we had to move everything virtual. And the goals on all these meetings I've had with, for instance, internal audit or procurement or legal, was really to first increase awareness of the cybersecurity practice. You have a security team to reach out to. We wanted to reach out to departments responsible for implementing IT assets, who is bringing softwares on the network, for instance, and get security onto the business unit's agendas. So during all these interactions I had, the key focus for me was always to take out and understand the people, the process, and the technology at high level, understanding who is doing what are their processes, how can we work with those teams. For instance, the procurement team had a guideline so we could embed ourselves in their process. What technology are they using to interact? Do they have specific type of forms, or Evalua, for instance, which is a tool used by our procurement team? And if they are not, maybe we would need to build one. So at least having this information was going to help us how to better interact with the business units. After the roadshow, so I collected a lot of information, learned a lot on what they needed, and of course they needed a lot very quickly. So I really have the need to implement a service request process to really be able to interact with the business units, because everybody has needs, everybody needs security, but you need to be able to capture those requests to ensure that our first deliveries reach their objectives and are a success. So I built a structured process at the beginning. So we had a generic mailbox so they could reach us out, phone number or email. And we built a request form initially on an Excel sheet to be able to capture what they need. So we built that template organize a folder structure. We build a resource assignment process to be able to staff the different needs and also define the different follow-up actions. So my takeout here from the first experience, it felt, of course, overwhelming at the beginning, but we did learn a lot along the way. And my takeout here was really to reevaluate regularly and refine the process to better accommodate the BUs for business units. For instance, I was saying we had an Excel sheet. We quickly had to decommission it and move to a more user-friendly version forms. So with drop-down menus, once we understood their services, all services, what they need, so we could easily build pre-built menus on the more user-friendly form. Needed priorities are constantly changing, so we had to reprioritize a lot. It could be that one day the CISO comes in, or there's a new request or a new need. I need to unstaff an architect here, send him somewhere else, and renegotiate the deadline, for instance. Agreeing on timeline, the deliverable is very important because everybody needs your help, but you need to know what they need, when can you deliver. So quickly we learned that sometimes we had a one-time assignment, sometimes it would be project iterations. I could have a requester coming in and saying they need someone 3 hours a week for the next 6 months. Can we provide that support? So these are things to consider when you build such a thing. Building relationships is really important. I reach out regularly to all the key players. I build up committees on a monthly basis with some of the key stakeholders, so we can discuss the risks, the needs, the issues, take decisions. I also have other regular touch points on the phone, so I can talk regularly to all my business partners to see what's happening, what's going on. I regularly showcase the cybersecurity service offerings regularly. As I say, we build the practice, so new services are coming all the time. I would say every month, every 2 months, we have new services we showcase. I follow up regularly on different requests and concerns and communicate at all levels. Communication is key in this job. I need to interface with IT management, my cybersecurity team members, the requesters, the partner teams, as I say, audit, legal, they all speak different languages. So I need to be able to speak security at their level. So that's very important. And the coordination aspect, it may sound obvious, but it's very important to work on. We had to also define a focus plan, and I think that's very important to do, to align with the CISO and CTO strategy plan, because otherwise we'll go in all directions at once, and sometimes it's better to take a multi-layer approach and build a strategy along the way. An example, defining the mandate and the area of focus in a timeline. For instance, the first year, maybe you want to integrate cybersecurity within the procurement process and have it flowing at a more mature level. The next year or next 6 months, you want to go on the PMO process and so on and improve along the way. Having senior management support is really key to get cybersecurity presence on the key decision committees, on the tables, and that they literally take you seriously. Because at the beginning, you will come in, they don't know you. So you need to, when you talk to a lawyer for the first time from the legal team, they will literally tell you about who are you, why, what do you want. So and having senior management support help us a lot along the way when we had our interactions. From personal experience, I wanted to say that we have to be aware of the one-size-fits-all approach, which is kind of the first way you want to go, because you need to serve internal audit, as say, procurement, legal, different business units. So you want to have a funnel to capture this, which is great at start. But you need to be able to tailor what you're doing to the strategy of the business units to their size within the company. We quickly had to build a catalog of success stories, because when we come, everybody wants to work with you, but they don't know you. They don't know what you're capable to do. So along the way, we started to build that capabilities and showcase our different success stories with different departments, different projects that we worked on. And having, of course, a short and long-term strategy is also key. It gets back to the point I was mentioning earlier, to have an area of focus and a timeline. Now we implemented cybersecurity as a service. So having all these requests coming in, there are two key things that we really do every day is to manage the requests first. So responding to the needs. So the first step, reviewing the request, collecting upfront documentation and information to know what it is about. So I know ahead, do I need to send them a network architect, a cloud architect, or someone for the sub-team. Planning resource allocation and timeline, very important. So we use a request tracker tool that helps us to do that, to be able to ensure delivery of the service. To give you a concrete example of services we did a lot of architecture reviews, vulnerability scan for PCI compliance, third-party reviews, log monitoring. So I follow up regularly with what I call our internal clients and hold regular meetings to make sure that we deliver on time what they need. And I stay also in touch for the post-delivery, because let's say my architect finish the work, give the review, they're gone to the next assignment, but I still need to keep in touch with my requesters, see what's coming next, were they happy, what can we do better the next time. So always keeping informed and ahead of the business units needs and the corporate teams. So from my experience here, as I say, implementing and communicating a streamlined request process was key. We spent a lot of time refining it, fine-tuning it, making it more seamless and easy to work with our different stakeholders. Defining key performance indicators is important. At the beginning, I remember we were always saying best efforts was our service level objective. It works at the beginning, but in the long run, it cannot. You need able to give a timeline. So because otherwise you cannot manage what you cannot measure. So we defined this pretty quickly once we had enough data to see how much time it takes to give a scan review, for instance, or third-party review. I would say to beware of the over-promise and under-deliver trap. I call it a trap because at the beginning, you want to gain the trust. You really want to over-promise. So that's why we kind of hold on to the best efforts to avoid commenting on the deadline. Say, yes, you get it next week. And what happens if you say next week and you don't deliver? You will get complained right away. So I would say to beware of that. Second aspect on cyber security as a practice, as we call it, is to manage risk, manage requests, manage risk as well. So connecting regularly with the audit, risk, and governance teams is very important, so we can identify the high-risk issues and open findings to help us staff the need and tackle what is the most important. So working together with those teams to propose and enforce the implementation of security measures and techniques, controls, was very key. If you can, really being able to attend external IT audit closing meetings is great. We're still trying to get our spot on those meetings yet, but it can give you so much information to be able to sit there. It help us to support the business units to implement those recommendations, for instance, or to challenge auditors as well. So from our experience, I would say connecting early with internal audit teams is key. It will help you to collect so much information on critical and high risk, to prioritize your requests and the efforts towards the more high risk areas, and also to coordinate with governance teams to review the risk register on a regular basis. So to really sit with them on those meetings. The focus on value. So another thing is that your executives, you want to know how well you're doing, what's happening. So you need to be able to bring some reporting on those activities. And it was one of my responsibility. So there's always two sides when it comes to give reporting: qualitative factors and quantitative factors. On the qualitative factors, it's harder to measure, but we are voicing the potential risks that we see and the BU concerns that I collect on my regular meetings to senior management. I'm on the field to collect those pulse and to bring them up a notch. So establishing and communicating corporate security strategies as well is very important, because what we see on the field can help to build those strategies, to feed the strategy up. So kind of a top-down approach and bottom-up approach. Solving problems is key. As I say, we're not here to say no, we're here to say yes, but. So we have to be creative sometimes to propose alternative solutions, mitigation strategies, to be able to work with a vendor that could be lacking some security controls, for instance. So we work on action plans, could be an example. Considering the budget constraints as well, and getting all the players on board. So as you see, you will see that news travels very fast, good or bad. It's gonna come, you will know. We wanted to create a culture of responsibility and transparency as well, and be able to get all key players on board. On the quantitative side, we build reports and dashboards. Of course, as you know, management, they like dashboards. They want to see things from what I call red, yellow, green perspective. So we build those tools. So we wanted to define metrics to showcase the value we are adding, because that's the point that happens after a few months, is what is the value you're bringing. So we were able to commit to timeline for key deliverables. For instance, at some point, we started to see that it takes us an average of 2 weeks to provide a security opinion. So then, great, someone needs an opinion of security requirements for new software. 2 weeks would be our SLO. So we commit to formalize timeline. We also implemented reporting tools to highlight our team's contributions and success and number of effort hours. So we created reporting based on the audience. So the executives would want to see more high-level dashboards, and we highlight the red flags. The business suite line managers or the requester, they want to see the status of the project, where we are, what is the deadline, how many days. So we put updated comments on this every week, even twice a week. So we get always the last pulse on how we are advancing. So we were able to build those reporting. That will really help you, because at some point you have so many requests going on. It will be very difficult to have everything on top of your head, and having key information centralized and live is really, really helpful. Now let me give you some key takeaways of my experience here as a business information security officer. The day-to-day is actually not as easy as it can look. You will become the in-house cybersecurity sales representative, literally selling the best out of it, and trying to settle issues sometimes and negotiate. So you have to wear many hats. Sometimes I don't even know all the time to describe my job, what I do. Some days I will be a project manager, a negotiator, a cyber expert on network, because I'm being thrown in a meeting like that, or third-party analyst. But you come in, you capture the key information, and you can bring the expert that you need at the table. So that's a good thing if you like to see things from a wider angle. Priorities can and will change at a moment's notice. So you have to be very flexible. So I like to say that every day is an adventure. I wake up, take my coffee, see the meetings I have, and I plan the day in a direction. It can go in a different one. It's all right. We'll still keep things under focus. After 5, I can check back the points I couldn't get done and follow up on them. So you need to think long term. At the beginning, you would tend to think short term to get success, to deliver. But you need to see what are the new services coming ahead. What is the strategy of the different departments? Because even if management priorities will change, you want to see what's coming next to be ready for the new upcoming initiatives. And actually, something I've experienced is that people skills is actually much more important in my role than the technical skills. The reason why is because I coordinate with so many internal parties and external parties. You can't know everything in security, of course. So if your background will help you to go, but you have to be someone who wants to work across the board. So being able to connect security and business understanding, being able to have a meeting at 8 o'clock with a lawyer, at 9 o'clock with someone from procurement, and then with network security, and then a vendor, and so on and so on. Being able to change tables and having those people skills is really key when you have to deal with different type of individuals. The main challenges I've faced was to be able to bring the right people at the right table at the right time. Sometimes you will be on a meeting and then you realize, have I known I would have brought, I don't know, a network architect, for instance, or cloud architect. So being able to filter out things ahead of time so you can bring the right people and avoid 2-3 meetings and more delays is key. It's difficult, but it's key. With time, I was able to find a ways to reach this goal when I go to meeting, to have the right people. You will become the man in the middle, defending your teams, representing them on different occasions. And something I've noticed is that the non-IT departments like legal and procurement, they need kind of a lot of reassuring, especially when you review contract clauses. They always want to verify the security aspects is okay. They understand what's happening. So that's something that I find interesting as well. On the apply slides, as you know, RSA, we like to give apply slides and what you can do as actions. I would say the first thing you can do when you get back to your work is to identify your contact for cybersecurity. If you have not done that or if you don't know yet, who is it you contact for questions and concerns? And request the cybersecurity team service catalog. What do they do? What do they offer? How can they help you? And what are the cybersecurity policies that they have? So collect those documents and contacts. And in 3 months, review the policies. If you have any questions, ask the questions to the team, see what kind of channel they have for you to provide feedback or to ask for services. How can you reach out with them and better interact? Thank you.